Hello everyone, this is Nick Perry at Schaefer's Investment Research with your chart slide show for March 17th. Today I'm back with my weekly check of the broad market indices. In last week's chart slide show, we had seen a pullback to support at the previous lows from January, and I referred to this as crunch time. Basically, the comp had been one of the weaker indices in terms of holding its support, was flirting with a breakdown. Same thing was going on with the Russell 2000. The SPX was right there, and the Dow was holding still above the January lows. So, since that post was put up last Monday, we had a 400-point rally in the Dow that was more or less given back. We had Bear Stearns come out and say liquidity is fine, it's not an issue. We then had Bear Stearns come out later in the week and say liquidity is an issue, and we saw the Fed and JP Morgan step in to provide liquidity, and then over the weekend we saw that Bear Stearns was going to be bought out for $2 a share. So we've had a few developments. What's interesting though is when you look at the charts, nothing's really changed, and I have to admit I'm somewhat surprised at what's going on here. Just in terms of, the action on Friday felt pretty bad. Today, you came in, futures were down, the market's been all over the place. Who knows where we're going to close today? We had a rally right after the open that kind of took us off the lows. We rolled over, made new lows on the day, and now it looks like we're kind of rallying back off the lows again. But if you look at the daily chart, we just step back and look at this, we're still kind of right at those lows. I mean, we tick below it on the SPX, but we're still right there. So as much as I hate to say it, I think the takeaway this week is pretty much the same as last week. We basically said it was crunch time, and it's, we're right on the bubble here as far as the lows, as far as a breakdown. And again, a breakdown, the reason that I'm concerned about it is that it extends this little pattern we've got going on here and then turns that into an orderly downtrend. And again, those are the ones that the grind lower that we discussed last week. So I think that's going to be the key this week. I'm going to clear off the chart here. Just keep an eye on what goes on right in this area right here. The comp is still kind of holding. The rut's actually kind of making a higher low than it did last week, at least so far. I mean, it's definitely, the action's going to continue to change here. But the Dow's still holding above. So over the next few days, I think it's going to be critical to see if buyers are able to make a stand here. The news has been pretty bad. We got the FOMC tomorrow. So that's obviously going to be something traders are watching. Expectations today, the chatter was calling for a full point cut. So it'll be interesting to see if the Fed's willing to try to accommodate the market now that things are really getting dicey. So that's what we'll be watching over the coming days. As always, stay tuned to the blog for further updates.